What's going on, YouTube? We're back with another Maxamet video today. Today is the long-awaited edge retention test. I'm pretty excited for this one, so let's get right into this. Let's talk a little bit about Maxamet first. If you guys watched any of the Maxamet experience, specifically the first episode, I'd cover a lot of the same stuff. Maxamet is a Carpenter high-speed tool steel made with their micro melt technology. It's just a fancy name for their particle metallurgy process. Just basically makes the carbides finer, or not the carbides finer, just more even distribution of all the carbides and everything throughout the steel. The only production company working with this steel today is Spyderco, and they're making 4 knives in it currently. 2 of them are very easy to get, being the Native 5 that I have here and then the Mannix 2. The other 2 are a little bit more limited. That's the Paramilitary 2 and Para 3. They actually just released another run of the PM2 the other day, so this is actually good timing for this video for anyone wondering how Maxamet stacks up to other steels as far as edge retention goes. I know that they should have a military coming out in that as well at some point, but I'm not totally sure when that's going to be. And I'm hoping now that those knives are coming out that they kind of figured out some of the issues that they had with the military line of knives and their blades warping. Let's talk a little bit about the composition of the steel. This is something we do in every edge retention episode. 2.15% carbon, a whopping 13% tungsten, 6% vanadium, only 4.75% chromium, so it's a non-stainless steel, and 10% cobalt, which is insanely high as well. So this is a high carbide steel, and for anyone who doesn't know what carbides are, let me kind of explain them a little bit. I'm sure someone will correct me or give me a more technical definition down in the comments below, but basically what it is carbon is your main alloying element in the steel. When you add carbon to iron, you get steel, and when you add other elements to the steel, there's certain elements that bond with the carbon to form what's called carbides. The carbides are harder than, or they should be, harder than the rest of the steel matrix, so everything else in it. I'm going to try and throw up a picture on the screen right now from Knife Steel Nerds. I think he has a Maxamet carbide distribution picture up there right now, so I'm going to try and throw that on there, and then I'll link his site down below so you guys can check him out. But basically, that's what gives you your edge retention, these harder carbides that are distributed throughout the steel matrix. The more carbides you have, and the harder those carbides are, technically the better your edge retention should get, but there's a bunch of other factors that go into that as well. So in this steel, I had to ask Super Steel Steve and Laren from Knife Steel Nerds on this one. I wasn't totally sure because there's 2 or 3 main carbide formers in this steel that I wasn't sure what was doing what. Basically, vanadium and tungsten are your main carbide formers here. Vanadium and tungsten carbides are very, very hard. Very, very similar as far as their hardness goes. I only think there's 1 or 2 Rockwell difference between the 2. But it seems like carbon wants to make the vanadium carbides first and tungsten secondary. The other thing that was interesting about this steel is that the really high amount of cobalt that's in it. And I wasn't sure what that does, but technically what it's supposed to do, according to Steve and Laren, is it enables a higher working hardness. So basically it lets them austinize the steel at a higher temperature and able to reach higher hardnesses. And speaking of hardnesses, Maxamet is a pretty damn hard steel. I've seen hardness between 65 to 69 HRC, and the only one I've seen at 69 HRC is my buddy BJ. He had his Rockwell tested, and it came out at 69 the first test and 69.1 the second. So he may very well be rocking the only production knife on the planet at 69 Rockwell, which is super cool. I have a feeling that this one isn't quite that hard, but it's damn hard. I would say it's 67, 68. I'm going to send it out to have it tested eventually, so I'm not going to, don't hold me to those numbers. Let's talk about how this was sharpened, because this is a little bit different from my normal testing parameters. So I haven't tested this yet with a micro bevel on it, and I didn't feel like doing that quite yet. That's for something down the road. So I did my best to kind of mimic what I would normally do for the normal parameters of the test. I sharpened this up to 1200 grit ceramic which is the exact same stone or grit and media that I use on all my other knives. The Spyderco Sharp Maker fine rods, the white fine rods, are 1200 grit. So I use my 1200 grit Wicked Edge ceramics. And actually, the ceramics for Spyderco and the ceramics for Wicked Edge are made by the same company. So that's about as close as you can get for those two. The edge angle I left alone. I haven't done any reprofiling on this yet. This is 16.75 degrees per side. Came like that from the factory, and I haven't really messed with it too much. Eventually, I'll take it a little bit lower, but at this point in time, we were just testing it at that point. And then after we were all done, I stropped it on a leather strap loaded with 4 micron CBN just to clean up any sort of remaining burr that could possibly be there. Came up very sharp. Cut computer paper easily, cut phone book paper very, very easily. It just had a very aggressive edge like it normally does. So basically what we did then is we cut cardboard until it would no longer cut computer paper cleanly. And this steel wore me out. I cut for a long time with this one. I had a lot of cardboard prepped because I wasn't sure how long it was going to go. My estimation was about 600 to 700 feet is what I was kind of hoping for. We've been getting in that 600 to 800, almost 900 foot range in the Maxamet test or the Maxamet experience videos, but that's distributing it over the entire edge. That's not just on one section. For this test, I kept it within about a 1 to a 1 1/4 inch section, and I got 586.33 feet, which is incredible. Darn close to what I predicted, but not quite. And honestly, that was only off the full sharpening, so there may be performance to gain here. I'm not really sure. I don't feel like doing one of those tests where, I sharpen, cut, because I'd be cutting thousands of feet of cardboard at that point. But yeah, I was very, very impressed with 586 feet. It definitely backs up everything that I've been doing with this knife in use, and it's just very cool. Let me talk about something that I found out while I was doing this cutting that was kind of unique to this steel and this steel alone. So normally with a knife steel other than Maxamet, you are cutting and basically it just kind of goes dull. Like you can kind of feel it starting to slowly go dull and then it just dies. Maxamet was a little bit different. So I felt it starting to slowly go dull. I was starting to struggle to cut paper. That was probably right around, I'd say, the 400 foot mark if I'm doing my best estimating. And at that point, I thought it was just about ready to be done. I continued to cut a little bit of cardboard though, and then the next time I tried to cut the paper, it was cutting better than what it did before. So my theory is, if you went back and watched any of the Maxamet videos where I have that Maxamet edge deformation theory, where this thing, instead of just basically rolling or just straight up blunting, the edge is chipping out microscopically. And I show pictures, microscope pictures in those videos just to show you guys proof of what's actually happening. What I think is what happened is that the edge was starting to get fatigued, and then by the time I tested it again, what happened was those little chunks kind of fell out and became the little micro serrations and let it cut a little bit more, which is very unique to this steel. This is still a theory. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but from what I've seen on the USB microscope, as well as just testing like this in a controlled environment, that definitely seems to be the case, and Maxamet is pretty unique in that regard. Anyhow, I feel like a lot of people have been waiting on this video. I've tried to get as much use on this steel as I could first to try and get a feel for it and see what it would do. But it's cool now to have a number attached to this, and this definitely won't be the last test for Maxamet. We'll do more edge retention testing on it down the road. I just need to replenish my cardboard supply after that one. So 586 feet, our new leader, and probably will be the highest one that I ever test, unless I get something crazy in like Rex 121 or M398 or S145V or something crazy like that. So anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to drop a like down below if you did, and subscribe to continue to see more content just like this video here. Anyhow, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.